Okay, the update for Battlefield 6 that is coming out in like 2 days from now could be one of the most important ones for Battlefield 6 so far regarding gunplay. The ballistics, the time to kill, and the whole recoil behavior are supposed to be changed, so that in the future, more precise aiming will be rewarded more and a nervous trigger finger won't necessarily lead to the results. Whether that's the case, we'll take a look at that now in the video. First, it's about weapon behavior, meaning recoil and spread, or bloom, whatever you want to call it. In Battlefield 6, it has always been the case so far that the recoil is random. So sometimes the weapon goes up left, sometimes it goes straight up, sometimes it goes up right. That will no longer be the case in the future. This variation, as they call it, of the recoil pattern will be massively reduced. This means your weapon, roughly, let's take the SOR 556 here as an example, always goes up and to the right with minor variation. That is still the case. So it's not like the recoil is always exactly the same bullet for bullet. It does vary a little bit, but the general direction is always the same. So as I said, the variation will simply be massively reduced. A very good step because that leads to hitting better if you know your weapon, if you know the recoil pattern. Keyword, skill ceiling. Yeah, a right step. It's a good step. But now there's also a downside, as I'll call it, because that's what it is from my perspective. And that is spread. Spread is a tool to somehow balance weapons too. That means a weapon that starts to spread more at some point during full auto is of course logically inaccurate at longer ranges, and then you have to tap fire. I would wish they would solve this more via recoil, this whole thing, that simply all weapons have more recoil and super little to zero spread. I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of bloom. Ultimately, I would like it if the bullet goes where you are actually aiming. The problem with more recoil and to balance weapons that way is of course the controller players and crossplay. Because you naturally cannot control or reset recoil as well on a controller as you can do with a mouse. And you have to say, in old Battlefield titles there was spread too, force people to tap fire at longer distances. It's also another way to slightly increase the skill ceiling. You can't do it that way. As I said, I'm not a huge fan of spread. I just like it when bullets go where the crosshair is, or the red dot or whatever. An absolute mega negative example for me there would be Battlefield 1. I found gunplay and spread in particular are terrible there. It's more like an RNG generator than an actual gunfight. Brilliant game, but the gunplay, not so much. But as long as it doesn't get that bad in Battlefield 6, I can live with it. So, conclusion of the whole story: in close combat, full auto will probably continue to be the method of choice, of course, and at medium to long ranges, you will then have to burst fire or even shoot single fire, because this increased spread actually starts after the first shot, according to the blog post. So, depending on the distance, you obviously have to get used to how each weapon behaves, which, if done properly, naturally also leads to the different weapon types or archetypes. Let's take the extreme examples, SMG and LMG, differing from each other so much that they actually make sense. Because we all know it. You take the SGX, you can use it at almost any ranges. So that would of course be desirable, that depending on the weapon distance, depending on the engagement ranges, of course different weapons are better or worse. So LMGs should then be better at longer ranges and SMGs, of course, just at short ranges, and be beaten at long to medium ranges by the weapons that are, so to speak, intended for that range. For example, I always found that the LMGs had way too much spread for the fact that they are supposed to be good for these medium to long distances. That never made sense to me. I hope that will be adjusted now too. Next, we would have ballistics, which comes into play here. That means how the projectile behaves after leaving the barrel. And there seems to be a magic number after the update. It's 150 meters, where a lot is changing now. That means in principle, engagement at medium ranges should remain fast and reactive and be a bit harder to control and hit your shots at longer ranges. And they want to achieve it like this. Muzzle velocity has been reduced on almost all weapons, especially SMGs. That means if you shoot at a longer distance, you now have to lead more, because the bullet needs longer to reach the target, of course. Makes sense. And drag has been increased, meaning air resistance. And this is where the 150 meter comes into play, because there's apparently a very steep drop there. That means from 150 meters onwards, projectile lose speed very heavily. That means that they take longer to reach the target and also drop more heavily. This means that very long shots simply require more calculation or skill. Simply meaning sniping will be harder. Hitting people over 150 meters will be not as easy as it used to, especially with weapon classes that are not snipers or DMRs. A very important topic for me personally, TTK and damage multipliers. And here we now enter a field that is extremely important for gunplay because it was simply very flat, let's put it that way, in Battlefield 6. And there's a bit to discuss there. So the time to kill in close combat at closer ranges will remain almost untouched, 200 to 300 milliseconds, if the netcode works, comparable to Battlefield 3 and also 4, for everyone complaining now. Perfectly fine at close range, because if you are on a flank now and you have several people in front of you, you can shoot the first one, maybe the second one, and with the third one, it will get difficult. But if the time to kill was longer, it wouldn't be that easy to be on flanks or surprise the enemy or multiple enemies. That's how they argue. Everyone can think of that what they want. Definitely write it down in the comments below. That means if you surprise people with a relatively short time to kill at close range or in close combat, you can get multiple people and thus create those clutch moments. That's the theory behind it, that the time to kill has to be relatively short on closer ranges. But now we get to the game changer, namely hitboxes. Because up until now, hits to the arm, lower body and legs did almost the same, or let's put it that way, the same damage as the chest. Of course not the head, there was a multiplier there, even if it's relatively low. But that is finally over, or in 2 days from now. That means in reverse, and here we are at precise aiming, that hits to legs and arms just do less damage. Consequently, you need 1 or 2 bullets more for a kill. Exceptions here are sidearms and shotguns. That has to be said very clearly because here it remains as it was before. And we have multiple examples. With the DMRs, it looks like this. You see it on the left side that says before. You see arm, leg, chest, lower body, all the same damage. It's a 1 times multiplier. Except for the head, it's 1.34, 1.5 and 1.75, where 1.5 and 1.75 are with the other ammunitions, the synthetic and the hollow points. With those you could increase the headshot multiplier. And now after the changes, only the arm, lower body and legs get 0.91% of damage, so 10 or precisely 9% less. That's not particularly much, but if you scale that up to multiple bullets, of course, that's already quite a bit. And with 3-4 bullets, which you, let's say, need for a kill with the DMR, unless it's an SVK, of course, that can just end up being 1 bullet more for a kill. The headshot multiplier hasn't changed for the DMRs. I actually find that a bit of a shame, although you would have to be a bit careful with the SVK there, that it doesn't one-shot to the head. But yeah, I would have wished for something there too, because DMRs also have to be rewarded for accuracy more. With the sniper rifles, it has become even a bit more extreme. We see here in the picture 1.75 to the head, that stays, and 0.8 to the rest, or rather chest is a 1.0 multiplier. That changes now. Chest stays at 1, but arms, legs and lower body go down to 0.67. That means precise aiming is rewarded even more here. So then to the automatic weapons, or the others, so to speak. Headshot multipliers is the same as the DMRs before, mind you, and here too, arms, legs and lower body is a 1.0 multiplier. In the new one, we see the headshot multiplier raises. In the after picture, we now see the headshot multiplier also increase as the only weapon class. As I said, I would have wished it on DMRs too, but whatever. So 1.34, which is the base multiplier, to 1.4, from 1.5 with the right ammo, those are the hollow points I believe, to 1.57, and from 1.75, those are the synthetic ones, to 1.8. As I said, that doesn't sound much at first, but you have to remember that automatic weapons fire, of course, a lot faster, and then of course this increase applies per bullet, and 1.8 for the synthetic ones is pretty insane if you go for headshots a lot. For the rest, we were at 1. For arms, legs and lower body, it's now only 0.84. The chest stays at 1. So, as you can see, it simply pays off a lot more to aim well and go for chest or headshots. Why it wasn't always like that from the start, no idea. A very good change, I think. And of course, this now changes maybe how one or the other will build their weapons. We'll have to take a look at that then, with the damage values of the respective weapons, especially the automatic ones, what that brings now. Whether you should actually use a synthetic or the hollow points or not. What you have to add though is that if you equip those two ammo types, there's also a trade-off. So you have also a disadvantage, namely they lose penetration power then, and very heavily at that. That means you can no longer shoot through destructible cover or through people, like you can with a penetration ammo, for example. Or you simply do without, because you shoot for the chest more anyway, and then you can put the points you have left into other attachments like larger magazine or improve recoil. Now there's another change, and that is about the sweet spot range on snipers, which I would just completely take out of the game, because no, sorry, no one is going to convert me there. I think it's nonsense. But according to DICE, there was a problem, namely that the ranges of the individual sniper rifles overlapped too much, and now that has been adjusted, so to speak, so that the rifles have their distance ranges more strongly defined, where they one shot to the chest. And the data is as follows. The SV98 now has a sweet spot range of 54 to 75 meters. That was 54 to 90 before. The M2010 from 75 to 100. This went up to 135 before. The PSR from 90 to 120. That was 100 to 150 before. So a really small range left. And the L115, 100 to 133. Which was the biggest from 120 to 175. That one has the biggest. Mini Scout still has no sweet spot range because it is designed to be faster. I'm curious how they will adjust that with the muzzle velocities, because that was somehow a bit weird to me. The PSR and the L115 had the slowest muzzle velocity but were designed for the longest ranges according to the sweet spot range, and the Mini Scout had the highest bullet velocity but is actually more of a close combat sniper. Well, to my understanding, it should be exactly the other way around, but fine. That way you could of course stake out snipers even more for their own distances. Yeah, those were the changes. I definitely wanted to go into detail and also give my opinion on it a bit. I hope it was still somewhat entertaining and not too dry. Leave a like. Here's another video you can check out. Really good, I think. You can subscribe, that's always fine, so that you find me again and you're not dependent on the algorithm. That would be nice, thank you for that, and we'll see us in the next video. Bye!